And now it's time for a preview of an upcoming game by Tom Vasel.
Folks, no time for a fancy intro here. Today I'm doing a preview of Devastation of Indines. Now, Devastation of Indines is part one, a sequel to a game that came out last year. This also came out on Kickstarter called The War of Indines. This is one of the best games I've ever played. And so now we have a sequel, Devastation of Indines, which is completely compatible with War of Indines, but it isn't just more of the same. There's a whole pile of things that are included in this box. So we're going to take a look at some of these things, and if you've never even heard of this system before, the BattleCon system, I'll give you an idea of how it looks. Now remember, since this is a preview, not everything here is completely finalized. Most of this artwork is very close to the way it's going to look at the end, but the components might not be up to snuff and so on. Again, you're looking at a prototype. But in this game, there are 18 characters. In fact, there's more characters that they're adding as stretch goals for the Kickstarter, and some of those are actually already been completed. So there's more than 18 characters, but there's 18 base characters that you get in the game. And you're going to take one of these characters and fight against another character, kind of like a Street Fighter or, you know, some kind of video game match where two people go up against each other. Here's kind of, this is the board here. There's 7 spaces that you will be fighting on. There's an extra space if it wants to be longer. This is a fancier board than the one that you normally use, but it's easier for me to show you. Your characters will actually be stand-up characters. And so here we have King Alexian, the 37th, against Marmalade Greyheart. And each of these characters comes with a card that tells you about that person's special power. King Alexian has Regal Might, and Marmalade Greyheart has Concentration, where she gets some concentration tokens. And they might come with some tokens, like she comes with concentration tokens, and the king comes with chivalry tokens. And each player is given a handful of bases. These are base attacks. You have shot, dash, drive, grasp, strike, and burst. Everyone gets these base attacks, and then you're going to get, for your character specifically, a bunch of styles. So you will get 6 different styles, and then you also get your own base attack, which is specific to you. The cards have different color backgrounds, red and blue. And what you're going to do is, on your turn, in each round of a duel is a battle between these people, and in a duel you start with 20 life, and either you have to reduce your opponent to 0 life, or at the end of 15 rounds, whoever has the most life is the winner. But each round of the game, you're going to play 2 of these cards together. And when you put them together, so for example, we can see here that the king here has played a Mighty Divider. So you'll see that the numbers add up. He has 1 range, he has 2 power, and he has 3 priority. Perhaps he went up against, she played the Barrier Grasp. So she has 0 to 1 is added to the range, so it's now 1 to 2 range that she has. She has 3 power, and her priority is 4. -1 plus 5 is 4. Now the reason that these stats are on here, whoever has the higher priority gets to go first in each round. The range is how far away they can hit somebody, and power is how much damage they will do to the person. But there's more to the game than just that. There are things like, for example, you see on here, start of the beat. She can spend 4 concentration tokens. If she does, attacks do not hit or deal damage during this beat, so she has that opportunity. So at the beginning of each round, they're called beats. Everyone who has start of beat does those things. It also might say before activation. So before you go, you do something. So before the king activates, he would go 1, 2, or 3 spaces, his choice. And so whoever has the higher priority goes first. If they hit their opponent, which means they're within range, they will do their power damage to that opponent, and then they might do some other things. There's all sorts of different things, like for example, the king here has Soak 2 and Soak 2, so for that damage, he will absorb. It won't even hit him. And then usually, if you hit your opponent, you stun them, and they don't have a chance to hit you back. However, in this case, the king has Stun Guard 2 and Stun Guard 3 here, so he can take up to 5 damage and still hit back. So you can see everybody has different abilities and different powers, and you'll be playing these cards together. Now once you play a pair of cards, you'll put it here, and then when you play another pair of cards later on, you will put those cards here, and these will move over. You start with 2 pairs here at the beginning of the game. And then when you play a third pair of cards, then they move over and you get this first pair back. So whenever you play any kind of attack, whether your base or your style, it basically takes 2 beats to recharge. So you're not going to be able to play everything every single turn. But still, you have 35 different combinations, 7 base attacks, and the different styles, and you'll be able to put these together, and you'll be able to play them at different times and working. You're allowed to see what your opponent has, but not only that, you also have these chips. Many times you can, when you play a pair together, each player will take turns anteing these chips down, which will add to the attack and so on, and you spend those chips or whatever your special character is. Because there's so many special characters. I mean, for example, this girl here has magic points, and she uses magic to attack. This girl here has puppets, and she can jump from one body to the other as she fights. Lysandra here has familiars, and she can have a different familiar in battle each turn of the round. Here, Karen and Jagger, she comes, it's a pair where you have a girl and her werewolf brother, and they're both fighting you at the same time. So there's so many different things, and these are completely compatible with the characters from the original game. There are a ton of variants that you can play with. You can play with one person's more experienced than the others, and then they have a completely different set of bases, which are more powerful. Or you can play where one person is almighty, and they have another set of bases. This would usually be where you would play 2 people against one person, or maybe even more than 2 people. You also can play tag matches where you take 2 people, and then you'll play a tag base, basically, to tag in your other person. And then each person also has a special action they can play, which will many times cancel what your opponent does, or basically redo what you have, but they also allow you to play a kind of a mega attack. Each character has one mega attack that they will be able to play at the beginning. So here, for example, she has the Astral Cannon. And in this game, unlike the original War Indines, each character has 2. You just have to decide which one you want. For example, here, this lets her soak up to 6. She can lose up to 5 life, and for each life lost, she gets a concentration token back. So that might be something that you need to do to get those concentration tokens back. Or perhaps she'd rather use this Astral Cannon, which has a range of 2 to 4, and she can discard all her concentration tokens and give her +2 power for each token she gets rid of. So this could be a super mega attack. If she gets rid of all, how many concentration tokens does she have? She has 5 of them. That could be a 10 attack, which is half your opponent's life. But you can only play these cards when you're down to 7 life or less. And while it's an optional rule, it's really one that everyone should play with, because it's fun trying to anticipate, is your opponent going to play their mega attack, and how can you block it? That would be enough, but there's more. You have arenas that you can fight, and each arena gives a special ability. And like, for example, here in Agena's Tower, there will be statue markers in a spot, and at the end of turn 4 it flips, and if you're not in a spot that has a statue marker, you'll lose 2 life and have -2 priority. So you can add these into your duels to give them more variety. But there's more. There's also mega bosses that you can fight, and they will go up against you, and you as a team can work together to stop these mega bosses. But there's more. You also have these cards here. Essentially, what these cards allow you to do is to call friends in. Like you will be able to, before a set of duels against an opponent, you'll be able to draft these cards, and each of these are characters that are in the game, and so they can come in and do a single attack, or they can assist you with one of your attacks, or they can boost your attack, which would be even more powerful, except you have to show ahead of time that they're going to do it. And that's not all. Besides the Striker expansion, which I just showed you, which is over 30 cards, and then all those characters, and the bosses, and all the different variants of the game, there's a game that you can play single player or co-op, where they're going to be releasing dungeons, essentially, where when you go into each dungeon, you'll roll a die for the different monsters that are in that dungeon, and they will have a range power priority attack, and you will fight them. They're usually very weak, but they'll get harder and harder as you go up the different levels. And they're even right now working and adding more to this, where items that you can buy between levels that you can take in here. So you have the opportunity to take this from just a simple fighting game, although it's more than just a simple fighting game, and now turn it into a cooperative game. One of the things that I struggled with in this preview was the fact that I just simply don't have the time to show you everything in the game, or even more than that, to even try out everything in the game in time to get this preview video done. Many games I'm able to get the whole full focus of them after 1, 2, or 3 playings. I played this one probably 10 times already in different variations, and I still haven't seen all the characters. I still haven't seen all the different scenarios. But I can tell you that I have enjoyed every single bit of it thus far. I really, the fighting aspect of this game is one of the best on the market, where you put those 2 cards together and you have all these different combinations. But what's really impressive about this game is how every character has a completely different feel to it. Some of them are very easy, and in fact, the rule book gives you kind of, this is a basic character, this is intermediate, this is advanced, because while they're very equivalent in their powers, some of them are more difficult. Some you just walk up and punch the other person in the face. Others you have to leap around and use your special abilities to their complete maximum to be able to defeat your opponent. And the fact that you can make one character more powerful than another by using experience cards allows you to go back and forth. Tag team matches are by far my favorite, because it allows me to have 2 people, and if I'm getting beat up by one of your people, I can tag out and bring someone else in. But this game brings in all that new stuff. That Strikers expansion is a nice little thing on the side. It doesn't complicate the game very much. The arenas are, again, another nice thing that doesn't complicate the game much. Then we have the dungeon mode, which is a completely different ball game, in which it changes the game very much. I have not yet actually beat the dungeon mode, but I have played through it, and it's still kind of a fighting game, but it almost reminds me of now a side-scrolling, the old Double Dragon style, as you go through and just punch people and the little enemies, and every once in a while there's a harder boss that shows up. So, folks, this is an amazing deal with all the things that you're going to get in this Kickstarter. So in just a few moments, we're going to show you links where you can go, and this game is already fully funded, so you will be able to get on board there. But taking all that aside, you can go back and check. I've already done this earlier in the year. War of Indines is in my top 20 games of all time, and that's out of thousands of games. I just love it that much. This one just really raises the roof on that. The fact that I can put it together with the old one works. But don't, if you don't have War of Indines, you can still get this, and it's a completely fully functioning game, and you might never even miss War of Indines. Adding them both together, there's millions of combinations of different things that you can do. And that's fantastic. Fighting games are very popular on video game consoles. This is going to take that same thing and bring it to a board/card game.
Thanks for watching our review today. For more information about board games, as well as the #1 board game audio podcast, check out Dicetower.com for reviews, interviews, and more. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower.